Hello, I am Jelana Sweet. I know the alphabet in American Sign Language and can sign a few words. I'm working on my proficiency as it is a very handy language to know. I not only want to know it for the communication with the hearing impaired, I also want to know it if I happen to be in a loud place. My sister and I use it to communicate when it is hard to hear each other, like for example if we're in a loud place. She took some classes a while back, so sometimes I have to slow her down, but we do manage to communicate. When I was a child, I watched Japanese animation. I wondered whether the subtitles were correct or if they were making up the dialogue. As I grew older, this thought stayed with me. I also became more interested in Japanese culture. It fascinated me, but I had no way to learn the language until I entered high school. I was able to enroll in a Japanese class for a year. I did not learn much, though. I had even told the teacher I wasn't learning well enough, even though I could pass the tests. She said I should go ahead and advance to the next level the next year. I was there about a month before she told me that I wasn't learning fast enough, so I transferred to another course. I did not start learning Japanese again until 2008. I was majoring in international business and I found I could minor in foreign languages. I used this opportunity to study Japanese at UTSA while getting my undergrad degree. The classes were fun and had a social air to them. I had little trouble picking up the basics. I was surprised by how much I remembered from high school. However, as I progressed through the intermediate and advanced levels, I started to have problems. For this reason, I stuck to the desmasu forms. These forms are polite without being too polite. It is easier to remember one form, so I kept to it. I did code switch a lot during class. It got to the point where one of the other students claimed I spoke Japanglish. I couldn't argue with that. I felt uneasy using a foreign language because of accent differences. I didn't want them to think I was making fun of their language by messing it up so badly. I had a lot of trouble using a monotonic language. Each syllable gets one beat. It was a rhythm I had trouble keeping. I also had trouble keeping the speed correct. The Japanese language is very fast. I tried to keep up with my speech, but I always made mistakes when I did that. I have learned to slow down, though. Although I am aware of slang terms in Japanese, I avoid using them. I do not feel I have enough knowledge in the finer nuances of the language to decide when something is slang or when it is vulgar. Some Japanese are still quite old-fashioned when it comes to language usage. I would not want to inadvertently insult or offend a person I am trying to communicate with. I feel I will not be fully comfortable with Japanese until I manage to do a language immersion. An example of a problem I do have are especially with verbs. Verbs are quite hard for me to grasp. There are forms of each verb and many different ways to use them and times to use them. An example I have is the verb to be. There are more than two verbs you can use for this particular meaning, but let's just look at two of them. Aru and gozaru. Aru is most commonly used, and it is considered polite, but not overly polite. And gozaru is considered overly polite. It is considered the polite form. It is difficult sometimes to realize which situation and which ones to use. For example, if you use gozaru with someone that considered you a friend, they would think you were keeping them away from you in a standoffish manner. Aru, however, if you use it incorrectly, like towards a boss or something, you could get into serious issues. Therefore, I don't believe that I will have complete mastery of the language or the culture, but I hope that a language immersion program will help me in the future.